All right, so for today's episode, I wanted to uh, talk about an idea and how to what I believe is a good long term plan to not only make yourself rich, but to actually acquire real estate and how to set yourself up for success in the long term. So let's get into it. So there's a couple important points that I wanted to make about how to accomplish all these things because throughout this video and by the end of it, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you some examples and ideas in particular that I've had that you can possibly implement yourself to acquire real estate, but then also how to acquire passive income by having tenants in your real estate holdings and things like that. But there's a couple of things that are important that we need to discuss in order to figure out how we're going to accomplish these things. So for one, you got to be financially responsible. That's a key thing, and that's just going to hold through the rest of your life. Um, and what do I mean by being financially responsible? What I mean by that is making smart decisions and avoiding unnecessary expenses with your money. So, for example, and not only being financially responsible, but just being responsible and thinking ahead and thinking about every single decision that you make. Like, for example, right? A lot of guys, we're we are sexual beings. And so what we think about a lot is in what we're designed to do is to procreate. And so a lot of our energy and our time and our ideas are all because it is all an effort in order to attract a partner in order for us to have sex, right? Let's be real. And so if you can start to identify those behavioral patterns and traits in yourself and you can break them, you're going to be a so much further ahead than everyone else. And it's just about being conscious and aware of your actions, right? So that's what I'm saying. Be responsible. So think about what you're doing. Like before you come inside a girl, think about what you're doing, right? Do you really want to have the responsibilities and do you really want to have the things that come along with fatherhood and having a child? Maybe you do, and that's fine if you do. Hey, but what the point of this video, and if you go to the title, the thing is that in order to really become rich, especially in today's inflated economy, you're going to have to break social norms, and you're going to have to do things that other people might interpret as odd, and things that not everyone else is doing, right? Because if you do what everyone else is doing, right, which is, let's say you get a good job, you find a woman, you get married to her or whatever, you guys buy a expensive home, right? That you guys are splitting the mortgage on, but you're just trapping yourself in debt and you're not, then you have a child. And so then you're trapping yourself in this cycle, which you see with a lot of American people is this cycle of just subsistence living, which is, you work, all of your money goes to for your children, it goes to your bills, and then that's really it. You might have a couple $100 left over from every paycheck. But again, this is being financially responsible. So you need to consider your actions whenever you're doing something, right? And so you might need to make some sacrifices in your life as well. You might need to live below your means. You might need to not buy new shoes, not buy new cars, right? Break certain societal things that have been set, like certain precedents, like, for example, showing off with an expensive house and an expensive car, right? And understand that a lot of these things, one, um, in particular when it comes to material goods, right? Like consumer goods, like the biggest one is cars and also houses and then clothes, right? A lot of these things are created in a lot of these notions and ideas that we have about buying things for the sake of having a status symbol. Those are not ideas that we come up with. Those are ideas that have been created by these corporations that create the consumer goods in order to trick us into spending our entire lives being their slaves, right? Because if you can create an object, right? And you can convince 100 people to spend their entire life trying to purchase your object, and they spend every single waking second and hour thinking about, oh, I gotta have a Mercedes Benz, I gotta have a Dodge Charger, I gotta have a $400,000 house, right? And it's gotta be 4,000 square feet, right, in order to impress everyone, right? Because you got to keep up with the Kardashians. That whole mindset that's been created by someone, right? Because it's while they're sitting on their butt, they have 100 basically slaves that are out there working their plumbing job, right? Making 75 grand a year. And then they save up enough and woo, now I have a Mercedes Benz. But it's like, why do you have a $50,000 car so you can go be a plumber, right? When you could have had a Toyota Corolla and saved 30 grand. So, and here's what I'm saying, like you can, it's all about, and I'm gonna add this point, all right? Let's add this in there. Delayed gratification. If you can delay your gratification, let's say you're mid 20s, mid 30s, if you can just delay your gratification for like a decade and spend a decade of just grinding and being disciplined, it's going to change your life, and it's going to allow you to start being able to purchase those status symbols that you may want. For me personally, I'm never going to have a car that costs more than $20,000. I'm not. It's just unnecessary. I don't need, like, it's a point A to point B for me. I might have a decent house, but I'm never going to need to purchase a mansion, because then it's higher property taxes. It's more to clean, because I like to keep my areas clean. So I always have like a smaller area, because I don't want to have to hire a maid, because it will take all my effort and energy to clean a 3,000 square foot house, right? I'm okay with 1,000 square feet. And I might adopt a child later or something. So maybe I'll consider that. But again, delayed gratification. And so again, this goes against what these corporations and these advertising companies have tried to mold into our minds, because now we have cell phones with technology. They've tried to just think about some of the ads and some of the messages that you see that are commonly displayed and thrown in front of you, right? And a lot of it is the narrative around it is having a sense of urgency to purchase these things, when in reality you don't need to have a sense of urgency, and that's to purchase something. And that's what they're trying to convey to you, because they want to make money now. So they want you to have a sense of urgency to purchase a Mercedes Benz, a sense of urgency to go to college and swamp yourself in debt, right? So again, you have to break societal norms. And a lot of times, what these societal norms are not even societal norms, because they're not common sense things. They're things that have been established by corporations. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that corporations have billions and billions of dollars. So they're able to create campaigns and create narratives and ideas in order to indoctrinate people into supporting the corporation and building it by buying the things that they're selling, right? So let's get into my next point. So in order to do what it is that I'm gonna, this idea of purchasing, basically purchasing condos, and how to purchase condos in cash and then use that to create cash flow in order to fund your retirement, right? So first thing, you need to figure out how to make at least $75,000 a year. So this is very important, because $75,000, depending on where you're at, like I'm in Texas here, so that's a great, if you're a single person, even if you're a person with a family, that's a great income. So if I'm gonna speak to the single people here, if you are someone that has kids, you're gonna have to figure out how to mold this and create this strategy based on your own financial circumstances. I'm not going to go through 3 examples of a father of 3 that's 35 and he has a mortgage, right? I'm trying to reach people before they're making mistakes. So, but you can still learn from this if you're 35, because if you're 35, think about it. The average life expectancy is 80 years old. So you're going to live to be probably 80 years old. So that means you have 45 years left. If you're 55, right? So hopefully I'm reaching people that are 45 and under, preferably 35, because it's much easier when you start practicing good behaviors and having good habits earlier on in life, right? So next point, save at least $2,000 a month. If you can save more, save more. And 2,000 is like the minimum. The key word here is at least, right? At least $2,000 a month. If you can, and because again, there's not a one size fits all solution, but again, if you can take knowledge and you can mold it and craft it into whatever circumstance you're in, then, do that, right? Because I'm not going to be able to speak in every single scenario. So for example, if you can live with your parents, because you're going to save so much more money. And if your parents will allow you to live with them, let's say you're 20 years old, 25, and you present the plan that I'm going to go over with you, and you present these ideas to your parents, I don't doubt that the majority of parents are gonna be like, you know what, that sounds, yeah, I'm fine with that. As long as you're moving and grooving and you have the job and you have the career, right? If you can live with your family, right? You got to think that a lot of corporations, they own a lot of these properties and the apartments. So the whole narrative that an idea that, you should be 18 and move out the house, that's completely created by corporations. That's not that's not a real thing. Like for the tribal family unit is like a very important part of human history, and it's what has been prevalent and has basically allowed us to expand and spread out our species as far and as abundantly as we have. And so you got to understand that the people that own apartment complexes, which are a lot of large corporations, they don't make money if they don't have tenants. So how do you get tenants? Well, you create this whole doctrine that if somehow you live at home and you're 20 years old, you're a loser, right? So now they can fill that vacancy because you're like, oh man, I'm living out with my parents. I'm 22. I'm a loser, right? But like for thousands of years, families were living together. That's how it worked. You didn't just go move into a $1,500 apartment. So if you can avoid that and understand that that is a created idea. That's not a real idea. That is marketing. The idea that you're a loser if you live at home and you're 25. It's going to allow you to have the ability to save up money and eventually acquire properties with this idea that I'm going to share with you, right? So next point, reduce your living expenses, pay off cars, pay off credit cards, etc. Right? You got to pay off debts. If you can pay off your car and avoid getting into a high car payment, it's going to save you so much money. And I'm going to do this on a calculator here in a second. That way you can see how much money you can save and how, even if you're not making $75,000 a year, how you can reach this $2,000 a month goal, right? So my next step, find a condo in your city for $125,000 or less. So depending on where you are, I'm going to use a major city, Houston, Texas, where I live, to kind of show you how you can do this. For the most part, let's see. Population living in major cities. For the most part, I think most Americans do live in major cities anyway. So let's see. Yeah, 83% of the U.S. population lives in urban areas. So this should apply for 83% of people, unless you live in like a large city that's like crazy cost of living, like, you know, LA or New York. And hey, if you can save up money doing what I'm doing and eventually move out of those places and find a place that has a better cost of living, like in Texas, if you look at our urban areas like San Antonio, Houston, Austin, Dallas, compared to like New York and LA, we're still like 3 or 4 or 5 times cheaper. And you can find areas like that still. I know areas in like North Carolina are still pretty affordable. You know, if you look at like Charlotte, Raleigh. And again, if you're practicing good financial behaviors and you're not acquiring excessive financial burdens and debt, that you're going to be able to, you know, save up money and have a little bit more leeway and freedom as to what you can do with your living situation. So, so again, now let's build this idea that I'm going to go over with you and just show you a brief example and maybe inspire you and just give you a goal and an objective, right? To set your sights on something, because if you're 25, 35, this is something that, because if you watched my last video, and I'll kind of piggyback on that and I'll go into a brief demonstration of that. But I talk about a Roth IRA and how if you start planning for retirement when you're 25, 30, and you put $500 a month into a Roth IRA, you can have over $1 million tax-free for your retirement. But a Roth IRA only gets you about 5 to 6% interest. So I'm going to show you how to actually, instead of getting 5 to 6% interest. Oh, and again, I'm not a financial advisor, so I put that disclaimer in there, but I have to say that disclaimer. This is not financial advice. So, you know, hey, consult with your financial, whoever, right? Consultant or whatever. This is not financial advice. I'm not a licensed or registered financial advisor. I'm just a guy with ideas. So let's get into this, right? So find a condo for $125,000 or less. This is where the savings comes in. Put a 50% down payment or pay it in cash if you can. Then pay off the condo in 3 years or less. Buy another condo. Repeat this process. Put a tenant in it. So let's kind of talk about this and what we can do and show you some examples, because I'm not sure how it works if you're trying to purchase like a condo out of state lines. So I'm going to use an example of, let's say you're a person in Houston, Texas, and you want to start buying up properties in Houston in order to build your wealth long term. Oh, and sorry, I did miss one point. So again, going back on the Roth IRA, so you can only get 5 to 6% interest here with the Roth IRA, and that's kind of low. So what I'm going to give you an example of is how you can actually use your money to purchase real estate in order to actually get higher returns on investment. So this will be showing you how to basically double your money versus get higher passive income and higher returns, because what you're going to be able to do is buy a property. You're going to be able to pay it off. then get a tenant in it. So what's going to happen is you're going to not only have the value of that property, but you're going to have all the rent. So over 10, 20 years, you're like tripling, quadrupling your money, right? And also building a net worth. So let's get into it. So let's get into it. So for one, we've already been over like how we need to lower our cost of living, lower our financial burden. But the example I'm going to use, because I think you can really start implementing this plan once you start making $75,000. Now, if you can pay off your car, if you can not have full coverage insurance, pay off your credit card, lower your living expenses, right? Save a little bit more money on food, not have kids, then you can kind of adjust this. But for me, like, since I found, like, again, I'm a truck driver, so I'm able to make the $75,000 to $80,000. So you need to find that career that can make it. So the example I'm going to use when you can start implementing this, because again, this is a 10-year plan for, if you're 25, you start doing this for 10 years. At 35, you're setting yourself up for immense success. And so we've already been over the Roth IRA, right? So you have that $500 a month going into the account every year. So you're going to have this money tucked away for retirement. So that's set. But we're going to do a budget. And the budget we're going to use is off of $70,000. So let me find my, okay. So income taxes, let's say we're making 75 grand. This is how much money you should have. This is accounting for income tax plus FICA. And so FICA being Social Security and Medicare, because those are taxes that you're obligated to pay every month. So your take-home pay, if you're making $75,000, and again, that you should be trying to make it at least $75,000 by acquiring useful skills that you're able to apply in order to preserve and move society forward and maintain society. So you're making $60,000 a month, so you have $5,000 a month of income coming in. So let's do the worst case scenario initially for you. So you're starting off, you have an apartment, you have a car payment, you have credit cards. So we're going to do that like the average person. So again, let's say how much you're responsible for. So let's say your apartment, let's say $1,400, because again, you should be setting your sight on saving at least $2,000 a month by living off less than $3,500 a month. And I would say even $3,000. So let's say $3,000 to $3,500 a month. So let's get into it. So again, let's get into the example. So you have $1,400 a month for your apartment, and then your car payment is $450. If it's higher, car payments and people making them high. Don't do that. So try to pay off your car. Get your car paid off. So let's say your full coverage insurance is $250. You need $500 for food. Let's say you have some credit cards, $250. What other debts can you have? $1,400, this is including utilities too, but let's say maybe you need some more utilities and internet and all that. Let's say, so where are we at right now? Right, so we're at $3,000, and this is the kind of living a little bit excessively. Maybe you have health insurance too. So hopefully you're not spending all this. So again, but the first 5 years, if you set yourself, so in this, if you spend the first 5 years cleaning up your debts, you're going to be able to do this. So if you start cleaning up your debts, right, and so after 5 years, because most car notes are like 6 years, so if you take away your car note, you take away your full coverage, so you only need like liability, you take away your credit cards, maybe you get a cheaper apartment or something, or I'm not going to do that because inflation. So right, so now we're at $2,300. So now we have, after 5 years you cleaned up, you're less than $2,500 a month of living expenses. This is ideally where you want to be, less than $3,000, because now in this example, if you're making $5,000, and we'll just say our living expenses are $3,000, we're making $5,000 take home, right? We're at that sweet spot for $2,000, which is how this plan works. So now let's look at it. So we're taking $500 a month for our Roth IRA, right? And so now we have $18,000 a year that we can save, right? So now we have 3,000 monthly expenses, and then that translates into 500 for the Roth IRA, and then we also have an additional 1,500 for saving. Because what we're going to do is, the whole purpose of this, sorry, I forgot to say it, the whole purpose is that we're going to buy a condo. Because the first step that we want to do is we want to buy a condo, because this is going to help us dramatically decrease our cost of living by actually owning where we live. So
looking at this condo, this is a condo I found this example for Houston, Texas. These are some decent condos. We'll look through it. So, and again, you might think, oh, it's cheap. Well, isn't it a bad neighborhood? No, this is not a bad neighborhood. This is a pretty good neighborhood, right? So, and this condo looks nice. You can live here. It's 700 square feet, 1 bed, 1 bath, right? We're reducing our, and we're living below our means and living humbly so we can be rich in the future, because that's like the most practical way to do it. You might think I need it now, but we're not being realistic. You need to think about like realistic and setting up terms long term. That way, each step of the way in your life, you'll notice you do this for 10 years. Okay, well, the first 10 years are hard. The next 10 years are dramatically easier. So again, let's look at this neighborhood. So this is in 77057. This is the 77057 in Houston. So we're going to look at the surrounding neighborhood here, because I'm just showing you that you can find places that are cheap like this that are in safe neighborhoods. So we're going to look at Tanglewood, Houston, which Tanglewood is right here. So again, this is where we're living at. We're looking at the surrounding area. Is Tanglewood, Houston safe? Yes, it's considered safe. It has a crime rate that is lower than the national average. So only 87. So it's like in the top 87% of safe neighborhoods. So we're going to look at another one. We're going to look at Hunters Creek Village. Is Hunters Creek Village safe? Still safe. So yeah, it's pretty safe, right? This whole area is just like an average common city. It's pretty safe. And then we're going to look at one more. We'll look at Larchmont, because we're going to look at the surrounding area. So is Larchmont, Texas, Houston, Texas safe? Yes. Again, these are all safe areas. So it's a peaceful, family-friendly neighborhood in Texas. These are what it's getting at. So you can buy a cheap property like this for $91,000, and you don't have to live in like the ghetto, right? So, and again, this is unconventional thinking. Problem is that the conventional way is to get like a house, right? Get a 3-4 bedroom house that's 300,000, 250, 350, right? And you might have a wife, and you might, but again, mortgages are not cheap. And so if you have kids and you're spending all your money on your woman, because if you've seen any of my other videos, and women are the kind of resource predators. So if you have a woman, most of the time you're spending money on food and clothes and your nails or whatever, massages or excessive things that she wants to do. And again, this is my plan. Take this with a grain of salt, but this is just something that you can implement on your own and think about, right? So buy a cheap condos. So you're saving, instead of buying a $350,000 house with a mortgage. I mean, let's do what's the mortgage on a $350,000 house? 1, 2, 3. Say your down payment is 70 grand. Yeah, we'll do it 20%. That's fine. Again, it's $2,400 a month for a mortgage. Maybe you find a place that's $250. Do that a little bit better. 20%, $1,700. So if you're splitting that with a woman, that's $900 a month plus utilities and everything like that. So you're probably looking anywhere from $1,900 to $2,000. So you guys are committing to having $1,000 a month in bills at the minimum for 30 years on this property, right? And also, you might have kids along the way, so you're probably just increasing your cost of living. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how you can actually purchase a property in cash to set yourself up for the long term. So let's go back to my example. So we have $3,000 of monthly expenses. We have $500 a month that we're putting into the Roth IRA. We have $1,500 for savings. So every year, let me make bullet points. So every year, we can save $18,000. Because 1,500 times 12 is 18,000. So after 5 years, we have paid off the car, credit cards, and any excessive debts, right? So now, for the first 5 years, we save up whatever this number is times 5, $90,000, right? So we already have enough money to buy this condo, but I'm going to show you like an example of what really you should do. So we have saved up $90,000. And then now, because of our the debts that we paid off, so let's take into account that. So let's take this and let's say we started off with $3,000 a month of expenses, and we'll shoot a little bit higher. We'll say 3,500 just in case. But we have paid off the car, right? We have paid off, so we don't need full coverage insurance. So paid off that. We also have paid off the credit cards, right? So now we're at like $2,650, right? So we're at that sweet spot. So now every month we have $5,000, 2650. Now you have $2,350 a month that you can save. So you have lowered your cost of living a little bit. But let's just say $2,000 for the easiest example. So again, after 5 years, we save up $90,000. So now what we're going to do is we're going to purchase a condo. So we're going to do this again. So again, just simple math. After 5 years, 90,000 times 2 $180,000, right? Now, one of the things I did realize I'm not taking into account for is inflation and the increasing property value of the condo. So I can't calculate for that. But I mean, worst case scenario, after 10 years, cash, you have $180,000 in your Roth IRA. You know, you've still been tucking that away. So you have in your Roth IRA, it's 10. So you have $240,000 after 10 years of doing this. Anyway, so, but let's say the condo that we're looking at here, that this market increases. I don't think it's going to like double or triple. But for this example, let's just use the average house price inflation. So it's normally 4.25% per year if we average that out from 1967 to 2025. So we're going to take this property, and what we did was we put the initial amount of it at 4.25%, compounded it for 10 years. So the property is now worth $137,000. It's 138, I guess, with round out. But there are going to be some additional fees that are associated. And typically, when you purchase a house, the fees range from 1% to 3% of the price of the house. So we're going to calculate for that. We're going to go 138,000 and multiply it by 0.3. And we're going to add that on to 138,000. So, you know, you're probably paying around $142,000 for the house. So now we're going to take our $180,000, we're going to take $142,000 from it. Now we have $38,000 in cash left over, which is good to have for, you know, set aside. And then we're going to show you what this does now. So because you paid off this in cash, and I'm not sure if these HOA fees will be the same, but again, we're looking at $381 in HOA fees. And what we're going to do is we're going to account for how much we're saving now a month, because in the previous example, we were paying $1,400 a month in rent. So now we're going to consider what our total expenses are going to be now after 10 years of implementing this plan. So again, the county tax, does it go up? I don't know. We're going to calculate this for, I don't think the property tax is going to increase dramatically. I don't think that's something that happens. So we're going to look at our home value. We're going to say our home value is $150,000. And we're going to multiply that by 0.0177. We'll divide that by 12. 221.25 a month plus $370 in HOA. And again, what this is doing is, so now you're only, for living in the house, you're only reliable for $600 a month. And this is why this plan is so valuable, because imagine if the rent on these places goes up. So let's say your rent was going to go up from $1,400 to, because, right, we calculated for the price of the value of the home increasing with inflation, but do we account for raising rent prices? No, and I'm not going to do that. But again, let's say the rent went up a little bit. What if it only goes up $400? Well, you're only paying $600. So if your rent went up from $1,400 to $1,800 and you're paying $600, now you have $1,200 less a month of obligation. Plus you own the asset. So you're actually you have a net worth, and you're able to actually sell the asset for cash. So again, so now let's look at what this does to our overall cost of living after 10 years, right? So let me update my stats here. Next 5 years, let me save 90. And a lot of this is kind of I'm going as I go, and it's kind of hard to keep up with this because this is a long form video. But if you're still here, I appreciate you, and hopefully you're making sense of what I'm making, because I'm getting a little mentally fatigued talking about all this. But it's not like it takes a long time to do stuff, right? This is the real world, right? So anyway, so we have $180,000, and so now we reduce our expenses. Our expenses by buying a condo. So now we're going to look at what our actual obligations are going to be here. So, hopefully, cars and all that stuff, always try to pay cash in cars. Don't try to be financing things. Don't get into credit card debt. So let's just keep the example and stay consistent here and say that, you were able to purchase a car in cash and you're able to keep your expenses low. But anyway, so again, we're going back. We only have $599 a month for now. Our living expense for a roof over our head is $600 a month, right? So we're going to look at an example now of how much we can, how great of an impact this is going to make on what we're actually liable to pay as far as like out-of-pocket bills every month. So let's say we don't have a car payment, but we need gasoline. Let's say we need health insurance. Let's say we need liability insurance. Let's say we need food. And we don't have credit card debt or anything like that because we spent the last 10 years paying off all our debts. So you can see this is what we're now liable for, right, with this plan. So this is setting yourself up for retirement. This is setting yourself up for an easy living. You spend a decade buying this condo in cash. You only have to have $1,500 a month just to stay alive, right? So now we can save even more money. And so let's do this now. Now we only need to make $1,600 a month to cover our bills, right? So you can see we went from having $3,000 a month in expenses over the course of a decade to $1,600 a month in expenses for the course of a decade. So now what does this do for our pockets, right? So if we 5,000 minus 1,600, 3,400. So now we went from having $2,000 a month of excessive income to $3,400 a month. So what does this do for us? So we take away our Roth IRA and we multiply by 12. So now rather than saving $18,000, we have $34,000. So let's say we were 35 when we started this, now we're 45 or 25, 35, do whatever you want to do with that. So now every year we can save $34,000. So now every year we save $34,800 versus the $18,000. And what this does for us, I mean, if you don't want to do this, this is fine. This is just an idea. But again, this is allowing you to kind of chill. You don't really need to worry about stuff when you could work a bullshit job and still save money and you're fine. Because then you have the asset, right? Now you own a $140,000 condo. Plus you are only liable for $1,600 a month in expenses. So again, you can just keep setting aside money and stacking and doing what you want to do. But again, I'm just trying to show you an idea that you could implement in order to make your life easier and be less obligated to have financial burdens in the long term. So, but let's kind of expand upon this idea because I'm going to go into what I was talking about earlier with actually acquiring real estate and using this to purchase condos so we can actually set up some passive income. So, again, we're spending the decade cleaning up our bills, saving up money, and planning out to purchase this condo. So now every year we're saving $34,000. So let's say now we're 35 or 45. I'm going to use my age. So I'm going to say I'm 35, right? And now every year I can save $34,000. And I make a little bit more than 75 grand. So I can save up more and I'm smart with my money. So anyway, just giving personal insight. So what do we do? So after 2 years, 60, we have $69,000. So let's do it by 3. So we'll go 34,800 times 3. Now we have another 100 grand. Oh, and I forgot, we also had an additional, like $30,000, I think, from purchasing the condo. So I'll say $35,000. So after 3 years of saving again, living below our means and having this owned property, we now have $139,000. So now, and this is where we can kind of get fun with it. So we have this money. We're 38 years old now, right? Because we took 3 years to save up this money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a condo, and I'm going to buy a cheap little condo in a shitty neighborhood, right? I'm not going to live in it, but I'm going to get a tenant in it. And let's just do the math. So let's say $42,000. We're going to calculate the interest on that, what that property is going to be with the average housing inflation rate. So I'm going to buy this property now for $63,000 with the 3% in closing costs. So we're going to do 64,000 times 0.03. We're going to add that on to $64,000. So now I'm taking 65 grand cash and I'm buying this property. So now what I'm doing is I'm taking away minus 65 grand. So I'm going to subtract that. It was actually 66, but that's fine. So now I still have $72,000 cash. I own my own property. And now I can get a tenant. And so again, my expenses are really low because there are some things that you have to cover. You do have to cover monthly this HOA fee of $378. And does it go up? I'm not sure, but I'm just going to use $378 for the example to show you, right? And so now monthly expenses from the condo are $378 plus the property tax, right? Which is going to be on a $66,000 property, 1.7. So 66, 123 times 0.0177, 1168 divided by 12, plus 378, 475. And what this is this is your monthly obligations for owning this property. So you have 475, but still, you still have your job. So you still have $5,000 a month in income, and you're only liable for about $2,000. So you're still plus 3. And now you have a $66,000 condo and a $150,000. So now you have a $200,000 net worth. Plus, keep in mind, we're also growing the Roth IRA, right? This is all, we're still growing the Roth IRA. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get a tenant. And so I took a modern day example of using the same zip code to see what the market is. And keep in mind, if we're also accounting for inflation with property values, we're probably going to encounter inflation for rentals too. So you're probably going to be able to charge more. But let's just say that we're only able to get $1,000 a month for this condo. We're only paying $475 a month to actually hold the property. So now what we're going to do, we're going to subtract that. Now we have an extra $525 in cash flow. So now with one property, sorry, 575, 20, 525 in cash flow. So now we have the tenant, so we don't need to account for this. So now really our total income that we have, so now we've increased our annual income because we still have the job, right? We're making 75 grand a year, but we're also adding an additional $6,300 of income. And so, right, obviously you're going to take into account taxes on that. We are going to use this year's income tax rates for that. We're going to go 81,000. Obviously income tax rates may change, but I don't think they're going to change all that much. And yeah, so what I did here was I actually found historical income tax rates. And so, yeah, income tax for people making $85,000 is probably not going to change all that much, considering in 1987, for single filers making over $45,000 a year, the income tax was 38%. So, yeah, but now let's compare that to now. So, keep in mind, greater than 45,000 was 38%. Now, and this is going back to 2021, if you were making $86,000 or more a year, you're taxed at 24%. So the taxes has actually gone down for the amount that we're making. So we're going to take that rate and we're going to go now with $81,000. So now we have $65,000 as our take home pay, and we're going to divide that by 12, right? So now we're making $5,400. So we've increased our income by about $400 a month, right? So we have increased our income from 75K to 81K. And again, we're keeping our expenses low. So we only have $1,600 a month to cover, but plus we own we're playing Monopoly here, 2 properties, ours, which is 140K, plus the rental at 66K. So now we have our cash flow increase, we have an increase in income, we have our Roth IRA set up, right? And so at this age, we are 38 now. This is after 13 years of grinding. I'm going to look at my Roth IRA and see how much money I have. So my Roth IRA, right? I've been saving $500 a month the entire time. So now my Roth IRA is worth $113,000. So I have that tucked away. So I have 113K in properties. I have 206K. And because I'm living off of $1,600 a month, and maybe we can do $2,000, I'm able to save, because now I make $5,400 a month in excess income after taxes. I'm able to set aside every month I can set aside $3,400 a month, right? So in a year, I can save $40,000 a year now with this. I mean, this is a great setup. I mean, having an extra 40 grand a year just works. And so then after 2 years, I can kind of repeat this process. So I have $81,000. Again, I can buy another condo, and then this just how it goes. And keep in mind, you do what you want with it, but I can acquire property. I can still build my Roth IRA. I can have cash set aside, right? Because the entire time I was still saving cash here. And I calculated that I had $105,000 in cash after this, because remember, I was saving up the $139,000. Sorry, I saved up the original $180,000 to buy the $140,000 condo, which left me with, or I said it was 145,000. So I had 35,000. Anyway, you see what I'm saying? I had 35,000, and I did another 3 years of saving up to purchase the condo at $66,000. So I added the 72 to 35. So again, at age 38, I have $113,000 in my Roth IRA, and properties I have 206,000, and I have 100K in cash. And now I can set aside $3,400 a month. So now let's say I'm in this situation at 38, right? And obviously you can't plan for things perfectly, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm just doing, this is an example. Again, keep this as a goal. And I think this is attainable. I really think this is attainable. So now I have $105,000 in cash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save up my $3,400 for a year times 12. I'm going to add that onto my $105,000. Oops, 40. I have $145,000 in cash now. So now, at 39, I have 140K in cash. So now I'm going to go buy another $70,000 property. Now another 70K property, and I create this cash flow again, because I think you're going to be able to create a little bit more cash flow because I think you're going to be able to rent out the property for a little bit more. But I'm just going to say I'm going to create the same amount of cash flow. So I'm increasing my cash flow again. By $525 a month. And so now at 39, I have $75K in cash. I own my condo at $145K. And I have about 130, what is it, 70, 66 plus 70. So 136K in property. Plus the value of the Roth IRA probably increased another $6,000. So plus 120K Roth IRA. And I can do this for like, because here's the thing. I probably don't want to maybe have 10 condos because I don't want to ever, unless I'm saving and setting aside, I can probably do that. But I don't want to be liable monthly for more than what I make from my job. And so keep in mind, because the more condos you get, the more HOA fees you're going to encounter, unless you like buy land and build your own apartment complex, which you can do that too. But this is just an example. So now at 39, I have my 2 properties, right? So my total property, I have $300,000 $290,000, whatever it is, in property that I can sell. I have the Roth IRA, and now you can kind of just chill because now you're going to have this, you're going to have an additional income, right? Because you're going to be making now, we went from making, another $6,000 a month on or $6,000 a year in income. So now your income at 39, income is 87K. So whatever, you can kind of chill there because you're probably setting aside another $400. So now you can save $3,800 a month, which is times 12. Sorry, that's the wrong number. So now I can save, what was the number? $45,000 a year. So I mean, at this point, you see what I'm saying? At 39, you're kind of chilling now. You have a great thing going for you. You have $45,000 of excessive income. So this is how you can clean up your act in just like 15 years, and really set yourself up for the long term. I mean, the worst case scenario with this is I'm able to save up $100,000 every 2 years. So let's just do the math on the Roth IRA. As long as I have that going, right? So the Roth IRA, I started this at 25. Now, by the time I'm 65, I'll have $1 million. But let's say at 40, I'm okay with having just 2 rental properties and working the job and saving up money, right? So let's just go through a hypothetical example. So again, I'm saving $45,000 a year, and I'm 39 years old. Let's say I want to retire at 55. So let's give it 16 years saving that times 16. So now I save for 16 years. So now at 55, I have $729,000 in cash. My Roth IRA is worth $474,000. $474,000, and I have 3 properties, right? I'm just not going into, because I'm kind of getting tired and mentally fatigued. This is a long episode, but I'm just kind of showing you. I mean, I'm not doing too bad by 55, and this is not even accounting for, like, let's just do another hypothetical example with the S&P 500, right? So let's say I wanted to take away an extra $500 and put that into the S&P 500 starting at 40. So let's take away, I had $3,800, right? Yeah, so I have $3,800 a month. $3,800 a month, and I want to take another $500 and put that into an index fund. I don't think I've gone over that with y'all, but anyway, let's do this. We're gonna do minus 500, and then we're gonna go 6,000 times 16. Actually, I'll do that. So anyway, 3,300. We're gonna change this example times 12 times 16. So I'm gonna kind of show y'all a different example. So this is actually if I set aside and put, instead of saving up 3,800 bucks and putting, you know, the additional $500 a month into the Roth IRA, if I take 1,000 bucks and invest it, and I only have $3,300. So my cash is going to change here, right? But let's do S&P 500 calculator. So if we look at the annual rate of return for the S&P 500 historically, it's normally about 10%, but I like to use numbers that are lower because I like to expect to have less money just to, you know, plan for things. It's normally 7% for inflation. So I'm going to take my 500 bucks that I was making. So again, we're doing $6,000. We'll say 6%. And at 39, I was putting this money in there. So now we're going to go with how much money I have in my S&P 500 fund. So, I mean, worst case scenario here, you see what I'm saying? Like I'm set up pretty nicely. I have $600,000 in cash. I have $1 million between that and my Roth IRA. Plus I have an index fund that has $154,000, and I have like $200,000 in properties. So, you know, you can kind of just keep moving and grooving. But again, this is what people don't do. They don't think like this, and they don't plan for their lives. So by the time they're 55, they're still working because they did what society expected of them, right? They got a wife, and they got a kid, they got kids, and they got a house that was too expensive, and they never thought about kind of game planning and doing this, right? I mean, first off, you know, creating that, again, going back to our goals, creating the savings of at least $2,000 a month, living off of less than $3,000 to $3,500 a year, spending 10 years to reduce your living expenses, right? By paying off your cars, credit cards, all that. Finding a condo for $125,000 or less. And I know I said put 50% down payment, but I'm thinking you should probably buy this off cash, or again, pay it off in 3 years or less. And then you buy a condo, pay it off quickly, put a tenant in it, and repeat, right? So again, this goes back to just an idea for you if you stayed through it, right? I know this is probably a tough episode, and it was tough for me because I'm trying to go through all of these things, and it's not like these are easy things to explain. So it's not like it's going to be like, I can't explain this in 5 minutes to you. But again, I'm just breaking this down to you, how you can go from 25 and in 30 years, you can become a millionaire. And now you're kind of set up here because if you have the 3 properties that are paying for, you know, I could go through an example where you have a tenant and your tenants, you have 5, 6 properties, and your tenants are paying you to the point where you can actually not even have to work. But for me, I would like to keep working because I'd just like to keep having money. And so now here your assets can all compound. But again, look, I have $630,000 in cash at 55. So I could buy 2, 3 more properties and try to get tenants in them if I want to. But I also have the value of the properties, right? So I can sell those for cash. Again, you just got to start thinking and start crunching numbers and start looking at really what you can do. But it starts here. It starts with saving at least $2,000 a month, being financially responsible, and having delayed gratification by breaking societal norms and understanding that you need to be thinking smart, and you need to go against the social grain and what is considered normal and accepted by society in order to, if you want to make a dramatic impact in your life. And maybe you're lazy and you don't want to do that, but that's fine. I'm just giving you an example, and maybe this will put some pep in your step and inspire you, and you'll, you know, take this and some of my other videos if you keep following me, because I'm going to keep making videos like this constantly and trying to be a little bit more to the point and trying to, you know, be just make sure I'm enunciating correctly and being as effective in my communication. But yeah, this was just an example of some things that you could do. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure you follow and everything like that, or subscribe or whatever. You know, it's YouTube's. But yeah, again, this has been the Base Blueprint. Thanks for watching if you did, and have a great day.